So you know what you need to do, but you're really struggling with consistently putting it into action. Well, this one's for you. I'm Heather and I help busy women feel well. I've got 20 years experience and I've helped literally hundreds of clients achieve consistent exercise routines and make sustainable changes to their diets. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how our brains work and what happens when we focus and don't focus on what we're trying to achieve. I'm going to help you understand what it is that makes behaviour change successful, and then we're going to distill it down into some practical action that you can take to put those things into real life. So, a big part of my job is actually helping people change their behaviours. Providing diet and exercise advice is obviously a big part of it, but actually putting that advice into action consistently and making it part of your routine is the really hard part. It's kind of where the magic happens. You know, if we can do something consistently, that is where we're going to get the results from. So being able to take that leap from I know this to I am doing this consistently is a really big deal. It's a great way to demonstrate this to you, why behaviour change is so difficult. If you lace your fingers together, and for me that's with my left index finger on top of my right index finger, I can do that. This is a natural way for me, and I can just concentrate on the rest of my day without having to think hard at all about keeping my fingers laced together. But if I change them over, so now my right index finger is on top of my left index finger, I can feel that a lot of my body is thinking about my hands and not what I'm saying and what I'm doing. Everything about me is thinking, don't change your hands, don't move them. I'm not thinking as presently as I am when I'm the natural way around. And in a nutshell, that's why behaviour change is hard, because you've got to focus the whole time. You've got to stay conscious of the change. You've got to remain on it the whole time. Now, when we do that, the old habit never really goes away, but the new habit makes it easier and less uncomfortable to stick with it. Small changes are repeatedly shown in research to outlast changes that are made as part of a big revolution in life. If you work on getting one thing right first and then the next thing right, you're much more likely to have long-term success at changing your behaviours. Now, focusing on something entirely sounds really simple, but in reality, it's really hard because life gets in the way. You know, something happens, some emergency or just other stuff in life that needs your focus. And what happens then? Because when life gets in the way, that's kind of when our behaviour change is either made or broken. We either carry on focusing on that thing that we're trying to achieve, or it gets lost in the hustle and bustle of life. It gets put to one side because something else has happened. Now, there's a part of our brain, most of our brain, which works to make shortcuts for stuff. So this is where familiar things are done automatically without wasting sort of conscious effort and energy and attention on them. So this is things like driving a familiar route or brushing your teeth, putting your shoes on, making a cup of tea, making a recipe that you've made 100 times before. Another part of our brain works much more slowly and consciously like this, and it's responsible for these slow, conscious actions, like driving a route that you don't know, like making a new recipe, like changing a behaviour. But it's only responsible for about 5% of our decision making. So because of that, it's expensive to our brain to change habits that are on autopilot. And that's why we have to invest so much consciousness and attention into changing behaviour. And once we've reached our brain's kind of threshold, it then becomes more automatic and stops costing quite so much effort and attention. But until we get there, we have to remember what we're trying to achieve. We have to stop ourselves from going on to autopilot and falling back into old habits. We have to make ourselves not get distracted, because distraction means the brain will start to override your conscious choice and snap back into well-practiced habits. Just like with my hands linked together, if I stop thinking about keeping them the wrong way round, my brain's just going to go, right, we'll just link them back in the other way because it's easier, and that means that you can focus on that other thing. So we always have to be remembering to remember about the change that we want to make, even when other stuff is getting in the way. Now, the first thing to say about that is you've got to allow yourself to get it wrong sometimes. That's part of the process. And while it's easy to just throw your hands up and go, oh, that's it, disaster, I failed at this, I'm not doing it again, I'm a disaster, I can't do this, all of this self-punishment talk, instead, make an assessment. What went wrong? Why did I forget about it? What could I do differently next time? Reassessing and understanding what happened is actually really powerful. And they say that it takes us several attempts at changing our behaviour before we get to actually truly change it. And for me, that's because we've had to learn from all of this experience in order to actually find the route that's going to be successful for us. So I think allowing yourself that bit of mistake opportunity is actually really important. Don't just give up because it didn't work out the first time. Now let's look at some practical ways of putting all of this into action. Now, small changes are repeatedly shown in research to be better adopted for the long term than revolutions are. So even though you want to change your diet, change your exercise, change aspects of your lifestyle and live an altogether healthier life, while that revolution kind of approach might work for some people, more likely than not, it's going to be more effective for you to work on one thing at a time. So when I am looking at a client's picture, if you like, I will look at the thing that's going to have the most impact on them. So if I'm looking at someone who does no activity at all, eats an all right diet, gets to bed at an all right time, I'm going to first focus on getting them into a routine with the exercise. And once the exercise is going, we then focus on the other bits a little bit more. Likewise, if someone's already not spending all day sitting down, they're eating an all right diet and they're going to bed at 2 a.m. and getting up at 6 and having a disturbed night's sleep, then the sleep and the lifestyle part is going to be the most important thing. So that's where you want to begin, is with the most important area for you. Once you've got that habit into place and you're able to do it more consistently without it taking so much effort, then you're ready to think of the next biggest rock to start putting into place. The next thing is routine. Routine is brilliant. Write shopping lists to mean that you don't have to think in the middle of the shop about what you actually need to buy. That can be a really useful thing. You can plan your workout in detail so you're not stood in the middle of the gym feeling awkward and confused and just flipping back to going on the treadmill for half an hour because that's what you've always done. Make routines, make plans in advance because they are much easier to stick to. You know, it's much easier to stick to a decision that you've already made than it is to try and make a decision in the heat of the moment. The next thing is habit stacking, and habit stacking is a great thing. What it means is piggybacking the new habit onto the back of something that you already do. So examples of that might be putting your gym clothes out ready to put on the next morning before you go to bed. You're already going to bed, so before you get in bed, put your clothes out for tomorrow. Remind yourself that you're going to go and do a workout in the morning. It might be pouring a bottle of water that you're going to drink across the day and doing that while you make your morning cup of coffee. You're already making a coffee and you piggyback this new habit of drinking a bit more water onto that coffee habit to make that easier to remember. Habit stacking is a really useful thing. And it's well worth trying to think about how you can put that into action. Now, they say it takes about 28 days to create a new routine. For me, I think that's about right. I think when I have consistently remembered to remember to do the thing that I'm trying to change consistently for 28 days, it then takes much less effort to remember it. So I think that's a fair assessment. But what I would say is set yourself up to give all of these tips a try, put them into action and see whether you think 28 days is about the right time frame for you.